Bud Light play of the game and find out who wins Joey Vitale's work boots for the night. It's the First Community Credit Union postgame show.
Our final score as the Blues fall to the Winnipeg Jets in Game 2 as they lose both games out in Winnipeg and now come back to St. Louis trailing 2-0 in this best-of-7 series. Welcome, everyone, into our St. Louis Blues postgame show, which is presented by First Community Credit Union. Along with Donnie Fandango of the Last Minute Blues podcast, I'm Alex Ferrario. Grant Francis as well, as we're with you tonight after a 2-1 final score. Chris Kerber and Joe Vitale will be along shortly. We'll get their final thoughts on tonight's loss with the postgame breakdown. That will also include the Bud Light 3 stars of the game and Joe Vitale's work boots. And then we'll get into our extended postgame coverage. That'll be on our flagship station, 101 ESPN. And we'll have our Ted Drew's 3 takeaways. We'll hear from Jim Montgomery, reaction from the Blues locker room. And Jeremy Rutherford of The Athletic will hop on with us as well from Winnipeg. But Donnie, let's jump right into it as we go back into this game recap against the Winnipeg Jets. And you start off with the physicality in this one. A game that in game number 1, we saw hits back and forth. I think the Blues had 35 hits in the first period of game number 1. And tonight you saw both sides bring the physical play. Specifically, it felt like Winnipeg stepped their game up to the next level.
Absolutely. And like this game today felt to me much more like a chess match than game number 1. I think the thing to me that was so alarming just in watching this here with you, and I always am okay with being told that I'm incorrect, but it seems as though that really from about midway through the second period on, the Blues really couldn't get much going at all. I mean, at all. It did not seem that there was any extended period of time in the offensive zone. One of the things that you and I were looking at during the game is the heat map. I mean, The Blues had nobody in front of the goal, but I mean, and no extended offensive pressure to even get anybody there in the first place.
Yeah.
So it was just, it seems as though Winnipeg, being the very good team in which that they are, pretty much locked it in that second period and then took that momentum into the third.
Yeah, we mentioned that going into the third period, that it felt a lot like what game number 1 was, to where the difference is you were leading in that game versus being tied into this one. But, man, the biggest hit in the game, to me, I thought impacted the offense a little bit, and that came all the way back in the first period.
4 shots on goal. The Blues with 6. The Jets 0 for 1 on the power play. Blues have not had one yet.
Ooh!
Kyrou takes a huge hit from Logan Stanley. He backed into him, and Kyrou is hurt and hunched over, going to the bench. Huge hit from Stanley has rattled and sends a buckled Kyrou to the bench.
Not a dirty hit at all. Logan Stanley, clean hit as he went in on a Jordan Kyrou who was kind of down looking at the puck as they were skating through the neutral zone. And to me, Donnie, that hit kind of took Jordan Kyrou out of the game. And Joey mentioned on the broadcast, good for Kyrou. He didn't miss a shift. And I mean, that was a massive hit. You saw Ray Barilli trying to help him catch his breath on the bench. Kyrou did not miss a shift from the rest of that game after the hit, but you could tell he wasn't the same Jordan Kyrou. It wasn't the same guy that was trying to go after pucks in the offensive zone. It was a little bit to the perimeter, which anybody would understand in that circumstance when you get hit like that.
Absolutely so. And then, you always wonder when you see somebody get lit up like that and hit like he was, if there are any lingering after effects of that hit that, maybe kept him from being as engaged as he would have normally like to have been.
Yeah.
But I mean, Winnipeg really, I think, took it to us physically, man. I mean, I throughout the whole course of that game, it seemed that not only did they really step into the physical play, but it seemed like after a couple of those penalties were called in the first, that the Blues were, I don't want to say not as aggressive, but I feel like there might have been some sense that they didn't want to do something to get thrown in the box. So they were maybe a little bit reserved, more so than they would normally be.
Especially when you saw the penalties in the first couple of periods to where you saw some of those. And it is right. Like, you just start to think like, okay, well, you can't have that extracurricular physical. Tyler Tucker, a perfect example, that play away on Alex Iafallo that sent him to the box. But look, Johnny's right. I mean, 33 hits compared to 29 in favor of the Winnipeg Jets, whereas after the first period and the first 2 periods, I guess I could say, from game number 1, Blues had out-hit Winnipeg by like 20 or more hits in those 2 periods. But then the Blues, as we mentioned, would go into the penalty box a couple of times. They would kill both of them off, but following the second penalty that the Blues took, that's when Winnipeg pounced on their first goal.
3:36 to go. Schiefele in. He drives the net. Schiefele centers. Snuggerud checks into Schiefele, and the puck off the Blues forward under Bennington and in, and the Jets take a 1-0 lead.
You know, going back and watching that replay, Donnie, the play starts in the own offensive zone. Jake Neighbors clears it, and it's out of the reach of Jordan Kyrou, and DeMello has the puck in the neutral zone because they don't get it deep enough, but the Blues change on the shift. They try and get fresh bodies out there, and a quick reaction by DeMello sees Mark Schiefele, and he sends him up, and that's really what started it, as it was just one-on-one. Letty, who was late trying to get out of that shift, Mark Schiefele goes up one-on-one. Letty falls down on the change, and then Snuggerud comes in and bumps Mark Schiefele into it. But another goal, like we saw in the first game, that it's really an unfortunate bounce that Bennington has no chance on. He makes the initial save, but when Snuggerud bumps in to Mark Schiefele, that's what sends the puck in.
You know, something that I said in the pregame, and goodness knows I'm going to try to make myself look good from something that I said earlier. I mean, you got to try. But, I mean, I think that one of the things that was pretty evident to me throughout was just Winnipeg absolutely taking it to the Blues, especially in the second half of that game, of that second period. And then again in the third period, the Blues just couldn't get any dang thing going.
Yeah, well, and that's just that. I mean, there was quick decisions with Winnipeg trying to win those board battles, the 50-50 plays. And again, the top line for Winnipeg beats you. Mark Schiefele coming up with a big play, and he breaks in, beats Nick Letty as Letty falls down, and then gets that goal. But the good news after that one went in was the Blues responded this time on their power play.
Thomas with a head of steam. Gets held along the wall, then taken down by Morrissey. Clearing attempt. The puck gets deflected back into the corner. And with Buchnevich now, 10 seconds to go to Fowler. Wiring a shot with Snuggerud. And back now to Buchnevich. Buchnevich through. Snuggerud. Score! Jimmy Snuggerud. Power play goal. Ties the game 1-1. 0.8 seconds to go, period number 1.
A lethal shot by Jimmy Snuggerud, Donnie, and that got everybody here in our studio pumped up. I know it got St. Louis Blues fans pumped up as well, and that's where Jimmy Snuggerud's ceiling could be at. A guy that has that lethal of a shot. You saw the difference he can make. Connor Hellebuck didn't even flinch.
Right. I mean, I think it's very tough with it still being raw after a Game 2 loss. Yeah. But I do think that you got to keep in mind a little perspective here. You have to keep in mind that there are still some good things that are happening and coming out of this, even though it's still absolutely very tough to see.
Absolutely. And Jimmy Snuggerud picking up his first point in the playoffs, and honestly had a great game. We'll get more into this in our 3 takeaways, but his line, Thomas, Pavel Buchnevich, and Jimmy Snuggerud, best offensive line in the game for the Blues. And that tells you an awful lot, especially when they're matched up against Mark Schiefele out there for a majority of that game.
Well, and I'm still just really floored with the position in which the Snuggerud has been put in here. I mean, again, we're not just talking about third, fourth line minutes here.
Yeah.
I mean, our guy is really in a huge position here, and obviously it would be different if Dylan Holloway were in the lineup, but still, I think it's just really interesting to see all of the big minutes in which that he's getting.
Played over 20 minutes tonight and had 7 shot attempts, 2 of them on goal, 1 of them being the goal. So you exit the first period in a 1-1 tie. You enter the second period. That was honestly 50-50. Now, the chances were in favor of Winnipeg slightly at even strength, but both sides with 7 shots on goal. And to me, the narrative in that second period was the goaltending, specifically Jordan Bennington.
Jets win that draw. Sandberg over to Schenn. Shoots it on. Lowry right in front. Great time shot by Luke Schenn. And a huge save by Bennington. Parayko will clear for the Blues. Foxa at center to Toropchenko. To Parayko moving in. Short-handed. They couldn't connect. And now the Jets have a 4-on-3. They enter. Nemesnikov shooting and a big save. Highway robbery from Bennington. What a save. Tucker's out of the box. They dump it in. And oh my, what a save by Bennington. Keeping the game scoreless.
Keep an eye on that save right there. What a beauty. Maybe the save of the series. I'm going to call it right now.
Played right back off the skate of Jake Neighbors. Reaches for it to slow down Lowry. Winnipeg manages to get it onside. Shoot it. Bennington. Bennington makes a big glove save.
In that second period, Donnie, Jordan Bennington saw a total of 4 high-danger scoring chances from the Winnipeg Jets, and you heard the biggest one that he made on that breakaway to keep it the tie hockey game that it was. Jordan Bennington, the reason that this Blues team was in the hockey game from start to finish.
Absolutely so. I mean, we said it after the first period. Any sort of taking Jordan Bennington for granted at this particular point, I mean, we just obviously can't do anymore. But also, it was just a little bit, I'd say disappointing. I mean, I understand that Winnipeg is a fantastic team. I understand where the Blues are. I just was hoping that you would see, at least in that second and third, the Blues try to impose their will a little bit more. Yeah. And they were just completely unable to do that.
Yeah, and credit to Winnipeg. I mean, Winnipeg was standing the Blues up in the neutral zone every single time that a puck would go in. Typically, what we've seen from the Blues since the Four Nations break was the puck would go in, they would forecheck, they would win those 50-50 battles along the board. You saw Winnipeg, specifically in Game 2 tonight, but also in Game 1, every 50-50 puck, Winnipeg would have 2 guys on it, and it would just come back out of the zone.
As this game progressed, did you see Winnipeg themselves actually sort of getting better? And did they maybe start to impress you more than they have in, say, the first 4-5 periods of this series, or 4 periods of the series?
I think specifically the third period, and it felt a lot like what the third period in game number 1 was, to where now this time it happened, 90 seconds in. Game number 1, it happened 9 minutes in, but it was just, you felt Winnipeg starting to push, and then when they imposed their will, this is what Murat Ates told us on our flagship station, 101 ESPN. He's the Winnipeg Jets insider for The Athletic. He said, when Winnipeg imposes their will this season, you can't get the puck away from them. And that's what took place on that second goal that Kyle Connor scored as they enter the zone. They win the faceoff in this one. They control the puck, and they start moving it toe-to-toe. And what they do is Winnipeg tries to force somebody down behind the goal line. They try and get somebody to go after the puck aggressively, and then that's when somebody sneaks in. Much like that goal that Iafallo scored in game number 1 in the third period, that's how Kyle Connor scored the goal in the third period to take the 2-1 lead. He had the puck behind the net. Schiefele gets it up. Connor with the quick release, and then boom, back into the net.
One of the things that I was that I was hoping and talking about in the pregame was that the Blues could just keep putting doubt in the Jets' heads, whether that be Hellebuck, whether that be the team in general. And I almost kind of feel like sort of the opposite happened as the game went on, is that the Jets got their things together, even more so kind of locked themselves down. And again, I just am very afraid that we might have helped awaken a Jets team that maybe not looking the best. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's where that first game, it feels like it was such a missed opportunity. And even Cam Fowler said, you can't stick and look on that. And yes, you wish you could have held on to that, and you hope that you can learn from it and don't make the same mistakes. And they didn't make the same mistakes. I mean, look, Kyle Connor scored 90 seconds into that third period compared to you giving up that goal with 90 seconds left in the third period that gave the lead. But really the story in this one, Donnie, and we can get more into it in our Ted Drew's 3 takeaways, was the 5-on-5 play. Now, you had more shots than what you had in the third period in game number 1, 5 tonight. But overall in this series, after 2 periods, the Winnipeg Jets have outscored you 6-1 at even strength, and 5-on-5, the shot attempts are 40-29.
Well, and even in those shots in the third period for the Blues, I mean, what are the high danger chances there? I honestly do not remember them having any extended pressure in the zone at all.
Did not have a high danger chance in the third period, had one in the second period. And again, if you look at the heat map, like Donnie mentioned, Winnipeg just not allowing anything in front of the net, keeping the Blues to the outside, and that's been the difficulty of trying to open up any offensive zone time.
This makes me wonder, do the Blues need one of those sequoia trees back there too, 6'7", 250 pounds?
Well, won the Cup in 2019, those sycamore trees that they had, right?
I mean, in situations like this, because they were keeping the Blues from doing anything out there.
It was a 5-on-5 where you could tell the Blues are just really trying to find that chemistry with their offensive line combinations. And again, some final numbers on this one. The Blues and Winnipeg Jets, both with 22 shots on goal. Winnipeg wins the faceoff slightly at 53-47%. Blues 1 for 4 in the Ameren, Missouri power play, which we'll talk about this as well a little bit later. But special teams hurt you in this game. But but they go 2 for 2 on the penalty kill. Winnipeg with more hits. They had 14 blocked shots compared to the Blues 5. And the giveaways, there was 23-14 in favor of St. Louis. So that's our game recap in this one as the Blues fall 2-1 to the Winnipeg Jets. Donnie Fandango, Alex Ferrario. Again, we're up on our YouTube channel at 101 ESPN STL. We'll get to more of your comments once we get into our extended post-game coverage. But coming up next, we'll catch up with Chris Kerber and Joe Vitale and get their final thoughts with tonight's post-game breakdown. 2-1 final score. It's the St. Louis Blues post-game show presented by First Community Credit Union. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
Connection, opportunity, possibility. It's what we all want. Spectrum has built a world where anything is possible, with products and services designed to work better together for a seamless connectivity experience. A connection to family and friends, a connection to education, and a connection to new opportunities. So there's no limit to how big we can dream. That's Life Unlimited. That's Spectrum.
Hi, folks. This is Chris Kerber. And the experts at Fast Signs can handle any and all of your business visibility needs, from traditional signs and graphics to digital, decor graphics, and everything in between. Fast Signs in Earth City has you covered. I've used them, the Blues use them, and you will love the work they do. Call 314-344-4400 for your custom signage needs today. Fast Signs in Earth City, a proud partner of the St. Louis Blues.
What are the signs of a foundation problem? Cracks can be inside drywall or outside masonry. Cracks can be in block or poured concrete walls. They can be vertical or horizontal, but they all have two things in common. Cracks get worse if you ignore them, and they keep stealing value from your home until the cause is fixed. Get a free estimate from Woods Basement Systems, this area's highest rated, most reviewed basement-y experts.
For all things basement-y, go to LouisLovesWoods.com. That's LouisLovesWoods.com.
Take your fandom to the next level. Blue season tickets for the 25-26 season are on sale now. Benefits include savings off the gate price, the best seat locations, plus concessions and retail discounts. You'll also get access to popular exclusive player events and True Blue benefits, an exclusive season ticket holder rewards program. Secure your seats today or explore ticket options by calling 314-622-BLUE or visiting stlouisblues.com.
With a head of steam. Gets held along the wall, then taken down by Morrissey. Clearing attempt. The puck gets deflected back into the corner. And with Buchnevich now, 10 seconds to go to Fowler. Wiring a shot was Snuggerud. And back now to Buchnevich. Buchnevich through. Snuggerud. Score! Jimmy Snuggerud. Power play goal. Ties the game 1-1. 0.8 seconds to go, period number 1.
Wow, he's been all over it all game long. We're talking about the confidence. He almost scored in his first shift here. And how about this? Right as this period is coming to an end, Pavel Buchnevich picks his puck up on the near side wall, finds a seam. He hits Jimmy Snuggerud. I think the Winnipeg Jets are waiting for this period to end. I think they're going to add a little bit of time on the clock here. But what an elite pass from Buchnevich. A great pick from Bolduc in the middle. And then once again, it is a Blues player that just beats Connor Hellebuyck straight up. There's really not much of a screen. It was 2 high gloves in game 1 in the first period, and now this is a high blocker curve. So this is a goaltender that's had quite a year. But once again, a high shot just ends up beating Connor Hellebuyck. Congratulations to Jimmy Snuggerud there for the first NHL goal in the playoff setting right there. And boy, he is hot, and that is a feel-good goal. Well, now it's a completely different game.
Here's a list of Blues players under the age of 21 with at least a playoff goal. Rod Brindamore, Ladislav Nagy, David Perron, Robbie Fabry, Robert Thomas, Jimmy Snuggerud. Pretty darn good list to be a part of.
I really, honestly, I'm just thrilled to see the Ladislav Nagy
You're right.
reference in there. That's fantastic.
You got to throw a line those Slovaks. You got to get them out there, right?
But for real, I mean, this kid is legit.
Yeah.
And it's a really wonderful and exciting thing to think about as he is growing up and maturing. But again, giving the opportunity and playing the minutes that he's already playing says a ton about this young man.
Tells you what Jim Montgomery thinks of him, and that's the coach that's going to be here long term that has that type of trust. Again, Snuggerud tonight, 20 minutes and 1 second of hockey. Played over 4 minutes on the power play. Had 2 shots on goal, 7 shot attempts. Also had 1 giveaway and 1 blocked shot. So an overall great game for Jimmy Snuggerud. Donnie Fandango and I will talk more about it, but that's tonight's Bud Light play of the game. It's easy to celebrate that play of the game, and it's brought to you by Bud Light. It is our St. Louis Blues postgame show presented by First Community Credit Union. Donnie Fandango, Alex Ferrario, Grant Francis. We're up on our YouTube channel at 101 ESPN STL. We'll get to some of your takeaways with our Ted Drew's 3 takeaways coming up in a bit. But now, let's get tonight's postgame breakdown and the final thoughts with Chris Kerber and Joe Vitale.
Okay, Alex, thank you very much. Well, the Winnipeg Jets did what they needed to do. They won both games on home ice. The series will now shift to St. Louis. Next 2 games, Thursday and Sunday in St. Louis. The Blues are going to need a big effort on home ice on Thursday. We'll talk about some of the adjustments that home ice can bring you in just a moment. But, Joe, another tight one, another tie game in the third period. Jets get the go-ahead goal, and the Blues still just cannot find offense. So far through 2 games, the Winnipeg Jets have done a terrific job not letting the Blues score at even strength.
This is a frustrating style to play against. There's no question about it. You know, it's some of it, yes, is on St. Louis, but listen, I think that they're throwing everything in the kitchen sink at them right now. This is a well-structured Winnipeg team defending. Neutral zone, there's not a lot of room. Everyone's on the defensive side. They have so many numbers back. Their D are big. They retrieve very well. They communicate well with Connor Hellebuck. The Blues can't sustain any forecheck right now. They have great sticks all over the ice. Not only even the big ones, who, of course, the Stanleys and ones and Luke Schenn's like that, but even the Pionks, even the shorter defensemen, the Morrisseys, they have great sticks all over the ice. This is a well-coached team. And I think right now the St. Louis Blues knew that coming in, and this is now the reality that they are going home down 2-0 in the series with a very, very crucial game coming up here in Game 3 for the St. Louis Blues on Thursday evening, a late start there. But I look at the offense. It is frustrating. You do miss Dylan Holloway. There's no question about it. There's a speed element on that Brayden Schenn line that is just not there right now. You are looking at a Robert Thomas who was dinged up in that final game versus Utah. To me, he does not look 100%. He is playing through everything. You got to commend him for that. I think the younger skill guys of this team have gotten pushed back a little bit in this series. There's been a physicality edge that the Blues have not seen all season long. I'm looking at a player like Jordan Kyrou. God bless him. Tip a hat to him. He's stuck in the game, but, man, that was a blow-up hit by Stanley. And I think every time now he kind of touches the puck, he's kind of rethinking, these big D are going to finish every check. Physicality was a big part of this series. It's gone both ways. You could have leaned on it either way. Right now, I think Winnipeg won the physical edge in that game, not only with the number of hits curves, but the impact of hits on the certain players of the St. Louis Blues. I think it just has not allowed any speed transition. And quite frankly, part of the offense, too, all season long for the St. Louis Blues, ever since Camp Fowler especially, has been D jumping up in the rush, D joining the rush, staying in the offense. I think they're playing certainly a defensive style right now. That is the adjustment I expect to see in Game 3. I think they're going to go back to what they did in the regular season, which, again, is part of that, that assault of just sending guys, keeping guys down low. It's a risky hockey, especially with the fast transition team like the Winnipeg Jets. But I just think right now, holding D back and not allowing them to jump and join the rush on the offense, to me, it's not really suiting the offense right now very well. So that is certainly one adjustment I believe we are going to see for Game 3. But it's frustrating. It's frustrating style to play against. This is why they're the President's Trophy winners. You don't win that trophy by accident. You don't win it by having a good couple months. You win it by being consistent all season long. And, between the goaltending, the big D, strong D, and then the depth they have up front, they're not even completely healthy yet. It's just a scary team they're playing against. And I think for Jim Montgomery, his biggest work is still ahead of him right now about how the adjustments are made heading into Game 3.
There's always a simple phrase in a series, and that is if your best players are better than their best players, you will win most of those series. And so far, that has rung very true here in these first 2 games, as they haven't had a real good answer for Schiefele and Connor's line at the moment.
Well, Mark Schiefele has been the best player in this series, bar none. I mean, not even close. Not only for the Winnipeg Jets, but for both teams. You look at the way this game started, we didn't know how the temperature was going to go up or down. I expected a little less physicality. They proved me wrong. I think it was even more physical in this one than the Game 1, which I absolutely love. It was an exciting hockey game. Mark Schiefele ends up taking that puck to the net for the first goal of the game, kind of barreling through, gets a piece of Bennington, and that puck goes in. He got a really good chunk on Bennington in the second period as well. This is a veteran player who, to me, is going to be such a known player after this round. I think he's getting more and more recognition. I think he's really come out of his shell probably in the last 2 years. I think that he has kind of lived in the Blake Wheeler shadow his early years here for the Winnipeg Jets. But, him and Connor Hellebuck, now the two pillars of this team, signing those contracts a couple years ago, I think his time really has arrived. And I think he's shown it all season long. Right around that 40-goal mark along with Kyle Connor. This is the top line that I think was a big test for Robert Thomas, Colton, Parayko, and Cam Fowler especially. And they're doing a fairly good job. But right now, it is just Mark Scheifele's show. He's not only taking advantage on the offensive side of things, he's disturbing the goaltender, running the goaltender. He's drawing penalties, taking penalties. He's even physical. I mean, he's all over the ice right now. We'll see if it's sustainable. But no question about it, the Blues have to come up with an answer, not only for him, but for that entire line, because once again here tonight, Kyle Connor with the game-winning goal, third period game, you're tied, and you just allow one of the best goal scorers in the National Hockey League, right between the hash marks, point blank. Nothing Jordan Bennington can do right there. And this is a series, like we talked about before the game. I think game one was an anomaly. I don't think you're going to be able to outscore an opponent in this series. This is what this series is going to look like. It's going to be it's going to be strong defending. It's going to be great goaltending, and you've got to be sharp in the defensive zone, because one little mistake like that can hurt you, where I don't think you can come back and outscore your opponent. So that's where those little errors make big differences in these series. And unfortunately for St. Louis, they don't take care of business against that top line and hurt them again.
The special teams has been good. They only allowed the one power play goal, and again, that's a fluky bounce in game one off the stick of Suter. So the penalty killing goes 2 for 2. The power play got a power play goal in that first one with Jimmy Snuggerud with just under 2 seconds to go in the first period. The only goal of the game. But despite the fact that you have 3 power play goals in this series already, and in the process from a power play standpoint, going 3 for 7, that's a terrific percentage. But it really didn't get any chances in those last 3 chances that could have made a difference. The Jets gave you the opportunity, maybe kind of a bogus roughing call against Luke Shen, too. Yeah. But they couldn't take advantage of it. And one of the biggest adjustments so far we've seen in the series is in this game. Power plays 2, 3, and 4. The Winnipeg Jets got extraordinarily aggressive, and the Blues didn't have an answer.
They made adjustments. There's 2 things I want to say about the power play. Number one is that you look at how this one evolved, and the one area of the power play that jumps out at you is what Jim Montgomery said this morning. Your power play has been good, but it also needs to be timely. Those 2 power plays you had at the end of the second period, you don't take advantage. You get an extra lucky one in the third period, a gift, you don't take advantage. So not only the amount of goals you score in the power play, but the timeliness. That, to me, is just as important as how many goals you're going to score. I don't know if timeliness-wise they had enough tonight, because they certainly had 6 minutes where they didn't do enough with it. But at the same time, you mentioned in the series, they're 3 for 7. Those are good numbers. What's the series? 0-2, right? Jim Montgomery said to us in the hallway this morning, what wins championships? Defense. Defense wins championships. You can have a great power play. You can even have a great penalty kill. But if you don't have good defense and you're not strong 5-on-5, you're not going to win games in the playoffs. So you're happy. The power play can help you. It can help you get an edge. It can help you get up. It can help bring some life. It can help bring you some energy come Enterprise Center on Thursday night and come Sunday afternoon. However, to win games in this time of the year, to win series, you have to be good 5-on-5, and you better be doggone good defensively. And right now, Winnipeg has had the edge on both of those.
7 goals have gone in on the St. Louis Blues. 1 is an empty netter. Out of the other 6, there's only one. There's only one, and that's the Iafallo goal. The goaltending was terrific tonight. Jordan Bennington was outstanding. He had to make 2 or 3 10-bell saves. Yep. Otherwise, this game's not even close. You can look at a lot of things over games 1 and 2 and nitpick about some things. Goaltending definitely is not in that group.
It's not the issue. You know, I know some people were thinking, does Hofer see any time in this series? Right now, no. I think Jordan Bennington is without question your starter come game 3. I think the Iafallo goal in game 1 was maybe the one he loved to have back. Listen, I mean, the one.
But that's one goal against a President's Trophy winning team.
It's crazy. I mean, it really is. You know, goaltending has not been the issue. You know, you go to the Iafallo goal you love to have back, but in tonight's game, you know, the net drive by Schiefele, Snuggerud tries to finish the hit, poor kid's doing the right things, trying to make contact there, and ends up slipping in. Bad luck, much like the Suter deflection in Game 1. And then, again, Kyle Connor's all alone between the hash marks. I mean, he could have put that goal in his sleep. He's got 4 Blues bodies all around him. No one ends up taking Kyle Connor. A little bit too much attention once again behind the net, and it ends up in the back of the net. You know, that, when you look at D-zone, the Blues worked on this at the morning skate. That second guy, you know, being in a hurry and squashing plays quickly, you know, that kind of burned them in the first game. On the Iafallo goal, they had that second guy. It was Cam Fowler that left the front of the net. He joined the party to kind of defend Schiefele, left Iafallo all alone. Goal. In tonight's game, you got Schiefele behind the net. He finds Perfetti. You also had 2 defensemen puck staring and jumping in there as well, and you're allowing players in the front of the net, once again, wide open. Iafallo in Game 1, Kyle Connor in Game 2, and that is the most coveted area. Adjustments must be made in the D-zone because that is 2 games in a row we are allowing their best line to be all alone in front and make a difference in the third period with some of those goals.
2 more things here as we finish up our breakdown of game number 2. The Blues are going to have to find something in the third period, whether it be the crowd that brings them to life in Game 4-3 or what have you. Something we really haven't seen in quite a while. Yippiness almost in the third period. Child, like veteran, and this is not an experience thing. This is not, well, the Blues are don't have enough experience out there. We're talking some veteran players. You know, it's a Buchnevich in the slot with Connor on that game-winning goal. The puck bounces past Parayko on the near side. It eats up Fowler over on the left side. There are veteran players that are just getting that puck, eating them up a little bit here in this third period. And that's impacted some of that flow.
Yeah, it has. It without question has. And I think that, this is where I think this is a Blues team, too, that I think they're licking their wounds a little bit from some of the injuries that have happened late in the season. Whether that be, Colton Parayko coming back late. I know he does not look 100%. I think he's given it everything he's got right now. Robert Thomas got dinged up in that Utah game. He does not look 100%. You don't have Dylan Holloway. You've lost a lot of speed right there.
Yeah.
And I think in games like tonight, you lost a part of Jordan Kyrou after that Stanley hit. Now, again, stick with it. Heck of a job he did by staying in that game. But that was a hard, violent hit that, to me, would have knocked most players out of the game. I think if this is a regular season game, I think as a precaution, they don't let him come back. That is how bad that hit was. But he comes back. But you're losing players as the games are going on. Physicality, to me, has been one of the areas where I look at these third periods where the Blues are kind of drifting a little bit. I think they have brought it physically, but they're getting it physically, too. I mean, this is a Winnipeg team that not only the defenders, you're getting hit from everybody. I mean, look at their lineup. Lowry, Tanev on that third line. I mean, even the fourth line is bringing the heat. Mark Schiefele is their top-line center, and he's maybe one of the most physical guys out there. He's disturbing all over the ice. The St. Louis Blues, you look at the Tyler Tuckers and the Braden Shens and the Nathan Walkers and the Jake Neighbors, right? We all know those guys are going to bring the physicality. I don't know if they have the depth from the physical standpoint quite like Winnipeg does. I think the Blues got punished a little bit here tonight, and to me, that's where they looked a little bit lifeless coming into this third period. The good news is they do have more than one day to get a little reset before Game 3. I think rest is going to be absolutely paramount for this team, especially for players like Jordan Kyrou, who took some very, very nasty licks in this game. Broberg went into the boards a little uncomfortably. And remember, Robert Thomas got hit once again by Stanley as he was turning up in that second period. So your top players are getting beat pretty hard. You're giving hits, but you're taking hits. And to me, that's where a lot of the energy in the third period is kind of drifting away.
And you look ahead now to Game 3. One more about tonight. One real positive. Jimmy Snuggerud looked like he had a pretty good game. He doesn't look like the Stanley Cup playoffs are too small here just through 2 games.
I've loved him physically.
Doesn't mean it's a perfect game for him, but he's been good.
He had 5 attempts in the first period. He was the best player in the first period. I mean, 5 attempts. He had the 1 goal. He had a couple of hits, made a block. And that whole first period, he was ready to go. As you get to know him, you learn right off the hop what his physical attributes are. And we're seeing him with the shot, the speed. We saw it in Game 1 and Game 2. But you only know what he has from a mental capacity as you see games, and you have to give him time to see where that's at. This was a big-time game here tonight. Blues, again, backs against the wall here. They're already down by 1. You know this was a big game. How is he going to respond? This place was electric. It was loud. It was white. It was fierce. And to me, for him to come out and brush all that aside, quiet the noise, and go out there and play the period he did, really, to me, showcases the internal grit that this kid has. He is going to be a player. He's got a lot of growth. Physically, he needs to put on a lot of muscle. But the shot is there. The speed is there. He is so tenacious, and he is just brilliant beyond years. I mean, he is ahead of his lifetime from a hockey IQ standpoint, which is really exciting to see. I mean, you even go back to that first goal that he scored, the one and only goal of the Blues tonight. He had that one-timer chance here where he ended up not getting it off the way he wanted to. He smokes his stick. He puts a little bend in it, but he stuck with it. Then he got that pass from Buchnevich, and then he fires it home. That was a goal that gave the Blues a lot of life heading into that second period, ultimately the third period. So for a young player to come in, to understand the stage, to enjoy the stage, to relish in the stage, and perform the way he has been performing since he's arrived here to become a St. Louis Blue. Fans get excited. This kid is here for a long time, and he is going to be a superstar in this league. There's no doubt in my mind.
All right, you get the final change now going home for home ice on the next two. What does it mean for the Blues potentially in this series from a matchup standpoint?
You know, I don't know if I've loved the Robert Thomas and Schiefele matchup. Let's be real. I mean, they've had it a lot. I think you got to stick with Colton Parayko on that line. Do we see a D adjustment? Do we see a Nick Leddy with Cam up there with Colton Parayko, or maybe a drop down Cam Fowler to free him up offensively? I don't think that's out of question. I think Cam Fowler, we've lost him a little bit in this series. I think he's spending so much time defending against his top line where you're losing a little bit of his offense. Maybe you drop him down to that second pair, allow Nick Leddy to jump up with Parayko. They've been partners in the past. They can certainly shut down. And then from an offensive standpoint, I don't know if I've loved the Robert Thomas. I think he's getting lost a little bit 5-on-5 against Mark Schiefele. It'd be interesting to see if they can kind of put a hard defending, maybe even Braden Shen in the middle with a Toropchenko and a player like that who started the game. Can you put a line like that out there, even a Radek Fox with a Toropchenko, maybe another winger, to do your best to shut down the Schiefele line? Because if you do, you're going to give yourself a chance in this series. We said it after game one. I mean it after game two. You shut down that Schiefele line, you're going to give your chance. You're going to give yourselves an opportunity. So really, priority number one coming in for game three is for Jim Montgomery is who do we put out there? How do we shut down that top line? And if you do, you're going to free up some other areas and maybe allow the Thomas line to get going offensively, and you can open some things up in this series.
All right, what do you have in your Bud Light 3 stars and your work boots?
Number 3 here tonight, Jimmy Snuggerud. Number 2 here tonight, you got to go with Kyle Connor, the game-winning goal, and then Mark Schiefele. Pains me to say it. He is the number 1 star, best player on the ice for both teams. And work boots, I'm going to go with Jordan Kyrou. Like I said, he took that hit from Stanley. That was one of the biggest hits I've seen, at least I've called in the last 8 seasons. He only missed maybe one shift there. You could tell it was hard for him to catch his breath, but he stuck with it. So Jordan Kyrou has taken some big steps for me. Big steps for the entire St. Louis fan base, so he should be proud of himself. But then that was pretty impressive right there, and I know they're going to need him here in this series.
Well, the St. Louis Blues finished the regular season with a 12-game winning streak on home ice, and they're going to have to extend that if they're going to close up this series a little bit. The Winnipeg Jets have taken a 2-0 lead on the Blues through Game 2. Game 3, Thursday night, 8:30 face-off at Enterprise Center. And looking forward to a little home cooking in this playoff series. It's the 19th time in history that the Blues in the playoffs have dropped 2-0 in a series. Let's get you right back to St. Louis as the team flies home to St. Louis. Alex Ferrario standing by.
All right, fellas, thank you so much. Great breakdown as always, and we'll see you back in St. Louis for that Thursday night game number 3 from Enterprise Center. And that is our post-game breakdown with Chris Kerber and Joe Vitale. And that'll close it down here on the network side, but Donnie Fandango, Grant Francis, and I will continue the post-game conversation over on our flagship station, 101 ESPN, still live up on our YouTube channel at 101 ESPN STL, and we'll get to most of your comments with our Ted Drew's 3 takeaways, get some of your takeaways, and we'll get some reaction. We're going to hear from Colton Parayko, Braden Shen, hopefully catch up with Jim Montgomery and Jeremy Rutherford of the Athletics. So lots to get to. Blues will be back at it on Thursday for game number 3. Puck drop is at 8:30 from Enterprise Center, which means the pregame begins at 8 o'clock here on our flagship, or on the St. Louis Blues Radio Network, 7:30 on our flagship station, 101 ESPN. For Chris Kerber, for Joe Vitale, for Donnie Fandango helping us out tonight here in studio, Grant Francis, Jordan Deacon helping out as well. I'm Alex Ferrario. Blues fall to the Jets 2-1, trailing the series 2-0. See if they could pick up the first series win on Thursday on home ice, and you'll hear it right here on the St. Louis Blues Radio Network.
St. Louis Blues hockey has been brought to you by Enterprise, hometown partner of the St. Louis Blues. You can count on Enterprise to keep you moving forward. By Schiefele, hometown partner of the St. Louis Blues, invested in your success since 1890. By Bud Light, official beer sponsor of the St. Louis Blues. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. By BJC Healthcare, you deserve extraordinary care. By Washington University Orthopedics, team physicians for the St. Louis Blues and you. By Ticketmaster, the official ticket marketplace of the St. Louis Blues and Enterprise Center. By Toyota, Blues fans score big with a new Toyota. Visit your St. Louis area Toyota dealers today. Toyota, let's go places. By Pepsi Zero Sugar, full Pepsi flavor without the calories. It's delicious, it's refreshing. Pepsi Zero Sugar, zero never tasted so good. The official soft drink of the NHL and your St. Louis Blues. And by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. The real deal for real deals since 1976. This has been a presentation of St. Louis Blues hockey through the facilities of 101 ESPN Radio. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
WXOS HD1 East St. Louis 101 ESPN is driven by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm. It's time for the First Community Credit Union Blues postgame show, powered by Scott Lee Heating Company.
On 101 ESPN.
Pass to center, Buchnevich to Parayko, over to Snuggerud. Wow, what a shot from the back end to the forehand, but he lifted it high. Suter lets it ride to Letty. And a couple of great runs with the Hawks, including a cup. They get it to Toropchenko. On his backhand, shot on, and Hellebuck there to make the save. Falk on to the puck for the Blues, 3:35 to go. Send it right up the middle. Buchnevich to Kyrou, hitting the trailer. Letty the goal line, and it hits the side of the net on a deflection.
I thought that went in. Wow, what a chance right there for Braden Shen at the corner.
16 seconds to go, and the Blues trying to get it to the red line. They fire it in. It's off the stick of Hellebuck. Jets tried to eat it in the corner. Loose puck squirts through. It comes out. Nobody there. Third period, Yips have bitten the Blues twice. Fowler couldn't get a handle even there, and the Jets have beaten the Blues 2-1. So the Winnipeg Jets are going to take a 2-0 series lead, as the Blues haven't had a third period to call home about through the first two games.
Two of the same outcomes in this one in the first two games of the series, but different paths to it. Welcome into our extended post-game coverage, the fourth period, on your flagship station, 101 ESPN, your home for the St. Louis Blues. Along with Donnie Fandango, our Last Minute Blues podcast, and Grant Francis, I'm Alex Ferrario, as the Blues fall to the Jets tonight, 2-1 out in Winnipeg. And now do something, Donnie, that they have only done twice in franchise history, and that is come from behind in a 2-0 series that they have trailed.
Well, and the big thing, too, is not only is the task a tall one, but, I mean, the Blues are going to have to come out of the box on Thursday night and leave absolutely no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, you because at this point, Winnipeg is making their statement.
Yep.
And so you need a big, gigantic answer back.
The wild part about it, too, and Graham Francis made this point, and it's a great one. The wild part about it is I feel like in both games we saw the Blues come out in the first period that left it all on the ice, were the better team, tied the game up, specifically in game number one, tied it up twice. But then by the time you get to the third period, Winnipeg has that extra level, and the Blues are searching to find that extra level.
Well, and it definitely looked that way, especially late in the third. I mean, I feel like the Blues looked gassed, and they look like a team that had been the other team had imposed their will physically throughout the majority of the game as well. The team looked tired. I mean, and I don't want to say that they were shying away from hits and things like that. I know some people have written that in. I don't think it's that at all. I just think that Winnipeg was just very good at doing what they're doing and implementing their style of play on the Blues.
Look, you give Winnipeg a lot of credit, and I'm not sitting here to like toot their horn, but just going back to the interviews that I've had with numerous different members of the Winnipeg Jets media, this is not the same Winnipeg Jets team that choked away 2019. This is not the same Winnipeg Jets team that lost in the last two seasons. It's a very motivated team, and it's a team that has looked at their shortcomings over the last few seasons in the postseason and have made a strong emphasis, a strong focus on the defensive side of their game. And that's what we're seeing, Donnie.
Yeah.
Winnipeg is not overpowering you offensively. Now, tonight they had 12 high-danger scoring chances at even strength, so it looked like a really good game by Winnipeg's offense. But, man, this isn't a team that's like the Colorado Avalanche that you feel like you can't breathe with. This is more, you can't find a way to get anything going in the offensive zone.
I mean, nothing, buddy.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was pretty apparent through different parts of the game that, the Blues were really trying to push, really trying to get something together. And, I mean, Winnipeg was just absolutely not allowing it, thwarting them at every opportunity.
So we've got a lot to get to. We're going to hear from, hopefully, Jeremy Rutherford of The Athletic. The man's got like 17 duties out in Winnipeg, so if he could join us, great. I told him if he can't focus on, his sanity. But hopefully we could get some reaction from the locker room with Jeremy Rutherford. He's been helping out with some audio, so we're going to hear from that momentarily. We'll hear from Jim Montgomery, and coming up in just a bit, we'll get to your Ted Drew's 3 takeaways. We'll give you our 3 takeaways. But before we go any further, Donnie, let's get some reaction from Winnipeg. Let's first hear from the captain, Braden Shen.
Getting benches out there, it's close. We had some chances, and they were able to capitalize on their chances in the third period so far. So, they did their job at home, and now it's our turn to go to the Enterprise where we've had success and in front of our fans and do our job.
What do you guys have to do a better job of capitalizing on your chances?
Yeah, get inside a little bit more, I would say. And then Hellebuyck made some saves tonight, and we just do a little bit better job of getting traffic and pucks and people to the net for some second opportunities.
I know you just touched on it, but your last 3 losses where you were leading or tied at the third period came to Winnipeg. What do they do so well in the third period?
Patient. They're patient, and you know what? It's like I said, it's close. They've capitalized on their chances in the third period, and we haven't. So that's where we're at right now. We feel like we're right there with them, and like I said, we're playing, hard. It's a tough place to play, and we're right there. So we feel it's our job to go home and just worry about the next game.
What do you feel about the power play? The last time, maybe 3 power plays didn't seem to generate as much?
Yeah, probably not as much shot volume as we needed to get second and third chances, or just to tire them out. So, that's something that we're obviously we're going to have to look at. It's a series of adjustments, and power play has to do a better job just to come up big for us in key moments.
Braden, how do you contain that top line for the rest of the series?
Just now our job. We come home and we have the matchup and whatever Monty wants, and the other good players, if I get seasons and just keep on being hard on them, in your face and try and make them play in their own end. So far they've capitalized on their chances, and now it's our job to go home and worry about our job.
Snuggerud keeps on going.
Yeah, he's great shot, playing well, tough environment obviously. He's coming out of college hockey, and he's definitely not out of place. He's playing really well, and afterward he's a Blue.
There you go. That's Braden Shen, Blues captain. And Donnie, the big thing that I took away from that was just his talk about the ability to sustain zone time. And he said, we're just not doing a good enough job of keeping the puck alive, getting more shots on net to keep Winnipeg in their own zone. He also mentioned the power play, and that really is 2 areas that the Blues missed out on. Game number 1, those 2 breakaways in the second period that could have put the Blues on top by 2 goals before the third. And then tonight, the 2 power plays that you had in the second period where you didn't have a shot on those 2 power plays. But man, Winnipeg has got so much energy still available to them because they're not spending a lot of time in their zone. And when the Blues were at their best coming out of that 4 Nations break, man, they weren't giving the other team time to breathe. They'd get on the ice, they'd be stuck in their own zone for 45 seconds, and then a new line comes out there for the opposition, and that's when the Blues seemed to pounce.
Well, and it just seemed as though, Winnipeg throughout the course of this game tonight, cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah, they don't seem panicky.
It did not seem that there was any part of that game that Winnipeg was chasing. Yeah. And one thing that I do want to throw out here, and I know I've seen some people that have commented about this on our YouTube chat, but I think there's a lot of Blues fans that are just, and I don't want to just be happy that we're here, but are genuinely just happy that we're here. Yeah. The nucleus is so young, the core is so young that I feel like this is just one step. So I don't think that I'm near as disappointed after this Game 2 loss as I would have been with a different team in a different year. I feel like this is just still part of the process.
I love a good YouTube chat where cooler heads prevailed.
And it seems like there have been.
Because even Grant brought up, because, there's always that one person that chimes in and is like, start trading this guy, trade that guy. And Grant even joked. He said, I'm glad we're all not panicking in this situation. But just a couple of these, to your point, Donnie John just put out there and said, guys, they scored on 2 odd goals. Yeah. I thought the Blues played fine. IROC said the season is already a success. Matt, facts. I'm excited for next year. This series is big for the young guys. Like, that's the thing. I told you guys during the break, it's odd to where you're in a position where you're down 2-0 in a series and it already feels like the season is a success. Like the top 5 players on this game, a couple of analytic sites, the top 5 players in this game tonight were Pavel Buchnevich, Cam Fowler, Philip Broberg, Jimmy Snuggerud, and Robert Thomas. All 5 guys instrumental in your future.
Well, and listen, I'm hoping the comeback here, we get a dub on Thursday night, and then see where we are on Saturday or Sunday, whatever the next game is after that. But, I mean, again, you're just looking for measurable progress, and we have seen so much of that over the course of the last couple of months, and now you're squaring off against a big dog that's showing you how you got to do it. Yeah. And the Blues aren't there yet. And that's just fine. But also, this is a good Winnipeg team. But just give us a little time to percolate. Yeah. We're going to be all right.
Just let them marinate a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Those steaks always taste better when they marinate in some olive oil.
You got to be patient because you want to jump right in, but you can't.
See? We bring food to this conversation.
I'm so hungry.
And I am too, actually. Damn it, it's 10 o'clock also. Let's head back out to Winnipeg one last time and hear from Colton Parayko.
Colton, you guys on the stretch, so good in the third period. What's been the difference in game 1 and 2 here?
I mean, obviously, they're getting a couple extra goal in the third, but I don't know, nothing other than that. I think just continue to make sure that we push as a group all 3 periods. That's the biggest thing, putting together 60 full ones. Obviously, playoffs are super tight, especially these Central Division games. And away from the regular season, they're all tight, and playoffs is even tighter. So one mistake can cost you a game and things like that. But, yeah.
What did you see from your perspective on the goal in the third? Ahead?
Just trying to hold, and then quick play behind the net, quick strike up front, and then, just bang, kind of. Kind of what I saw.
Did Bennington stick at your leg, or it's hard to tell? He lost the stick.
Oh, I'm not sure, to be honest. That I don't know.
Okay.
You guys, power play is clicking out pretty good, and then it started to get you at the end there. Did you see an adjustment that they made, or?
I'm not sure exactly, but I think our power play has done a great job throughout the series. They've scored some goals, and definitely I think that's one of the biggest things in playoff is special teams, especially 5-on-5 is always so close, and so many different opportunities I think could be created on the power play. If it's not a goal, then momentum. I think that's huge in the playoffs too. So great job by our power play, I think, throughout the whole series so far. And as a group, just try to build on it. And we'll take a look and see what they guys did here as well. And, I don't know. Obviously, games within games here for 7 games, and just keep going at it, and just come back again and come back harder.
Obviously, they've got a great top line, but what's made them so hard to defend?
Yeah, they just play well together. I think they're dangerous from all areas. They can score from all over the offensive zone, so they've played together all year and just know where each other are. And like I said, they're just dangerous players whenever they have the puck in the zone.
And just where do you see yourself now? I mean, obviously tough hole down 2-0, but what's the vibe here as you head back to St. Louis?
Yeah, we can't be down. We can't, focus on the last 2 games. We can focus on the sense that we're going to learn, and we're going to take what we can from the positive side and then learn from the things that maybe we made mistakes on, or how we can get better as a group in terms of playing them, and then take that into game 3, home ice. It's going to be exciting. Obviously, just 1 game at a time. It's a lot. Obviously, 7-game series for a reason. So, obviously, we know where we're at, and just make sure that we go home and just put our best foot forward and see where we land.
Do you feel like not much separating these 2 teams?
No, essentially it's a goal a game. Last game, they obviously got the empty netter, but essentially 4-3 and then 2-1 today. So it's super close. I think the special teams are going to be huge. Just could be the difference as well. So just continue to get better, see the little things. We'll be good.
It's time for tonight's 3 takeaways, presented by Ted Drewes.
Real custard, real tradition. Ted Drewes. It's St. Louis.
All right, now's where we get to the good stuff, the meat of our extended postgame here on the fourth period. Donnie Fandango, Grant Francis, Jordan Deacon's here as well. I'm Alex Ferrario. Let's hit our Ted Drewes 3 takeaways. And again, we are live up on our YouTube channel at 101 ESPN STL. Of course, the Air Comfort Service text line is still there for you, 314-399-9646. You can also tweet me at Ferrario101 ESPN. A couple of things that didn't crack my 3 takeaways here, Donnie, that I just did want to mention. One, coming off of Colton Parayko's comments there, I thought it was an interesting decision by Jim Montgomery going 11-7 tonight. I didn't hate the decision because there's nothing wrong with adding a little bit more physicality to your game. And look, they played Tyler Tucker. It's not like he played 5 minutes tonight. I think he finished with about 10 and a half minutes. 9:45 is where he was at. Had a shot on goal, 2 shot attempts, 4 hits, and 1 block shot. He had an impact in this one, and more so than I guess I could say with Matthew Joseph, because they were short-shifting the bench late in the third period over the last few games into the regular season and into the postseason. I think it's a couple of telling things, though, when they went this direction. One, the lack of forwards that they have that they can put in there that can have an impact, whether it's Joseph or Texier. That Dylan Holloway hole is a massive one to fill, and they just can't find the right chemistry. And 2, I think it's also telling that they're not 100% sold Colton Parayko is back to himself. And look, nobody's 100% at this point of the season. Right. Everybody is hurt. But Parayko, who was out for nearly a month, maybe over a month, with that knee injury, he's a -2 in this one, played less than 20 minutes. It's not the same Colton Parayko that we're accustomed to seeing, which makes sense that they would want an extra defenseman in there just in case.
Well, and I'll tell you this much. You know, we have talked on the podcast a bunch about, and we even kind of referenced it a little bit earlier in the pregame, about the Blues MVP.
Yeah.
And I think if anything in these first 2 games, it has sealed the deal for me that if we had to pick an MVP for this team, it would be Dylan Holloway.
Dylan Holloway.
Because him missing that hole is so glaring on how it affects everything else. I just kind of feel like it's almost kind of proof in the pudding that he was the Blues' #1 guy this year.
Especially when it comes to even strength play, because, you know, you go back, obviously, in the 2 games that you've played so far this season, you've scored a total of 2 even strength goals. But if I'm not mistaken, he got injured in that Pittsburgh Penguins game, correct?
Yes.
And that would have been, I think that was No, that was April 4th.
How are you remembering this off the top of your head? This is insane.
Sometimes I'm Rain Man, sometimes I'm not Rain Man, and it really just comes down to which one decides to show itself. But in that time frame, in terms of even strength goals, which, mind you, the Blues offensively at even strength were the best team in the National Hockey League from the 4 Nations break up until Dylan Holloway's injury. They scored 11 even strength goals in the final 5 games of the regular season, which was a tie for 5th worst in the National Hockey League. And then you scored 1 even strength goal in the postseason so far. Like, even strength is not the same. And that's the lines that we were talking about, Donnie. To me, the opposition can say, let's match up our best defensive line against the Thomas line. They're the offensive juggernaut. Yep. When this team was rolling, I don't know if a team had the answer, because you try and shut down Thomas and Buchnevich. Well, now what about Holloway and Kyrou? Right. And what that did was now you got 2 of the best defensive matchups out there, and then your 3rd and 4th line can thrive. And now it just seems like teams can say, let's isolate this one, and then we'll work it from there.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think what's going to be very interesting going forward, and also makes me wonder a bit, is where you're going to go in Game 3 that you are going to be able to generate or spark this offense somehow, some way. I mean, what we're talking about here, if they go back to 12-6, which they most likely will, you know, I mean, is bringing in who they're going to bring in going to really make a difference in helping them 5-on-5? Probably not. So that, to me, I think is one of the most concerning things here moving forward, is that I'm not sure what the answer will be for the Blues.
Yeah, I don't know if they have an answer, frankly, and you're going to have to dig deep. Honestly, you have to change your identity a little bit. You can't play the style that was forecheck and cycling. It's going to have to be a little bit more of the physicality to regain puck possession, and really it's net front presence. And, Donnie, that was one of my biggest takeaways. The moment the third period happened and Connor scored that goal, and then we both said, like, when was the last time it felt like the Blues had a sustained amount of zone time? this team, and do yourself a favor, go look at Natural Stat Trick's game log from tonight and look at the heat map. There is a little green dot in front of the Winnipeg Jets net. That, for the Blues, is not how you're able to... That's not how you get back into the series. You have to take Hellebuck's eyes away if you're going to beat them. And to do that, you're going to have to get to the front of the net.
Well, one of the things that we talked about on the podcast was if the Blues were going to be able to generate enough in front of the net front presence throughout the whole series. And that is something that they have been, unable to do. And this is where we are as a result of it.
Second one for me, Donnie, and Jeremy Rutherford's going to join us momentarily from Winnipeg. He's going to hop on our air link, so you can head on over to YouTube channel to see Jay there, JR there. I called him Jay. Now I'm doing nicknames all night tonight. What the hell, Ferrario?
You called me Johnny once, too, by the way.
I did call you Johnny. I mixed you with the YouTube chat, which is honestly a dangerous thing to do. Johnny, let's go to my second takeaway in this one. Second takeaway has to be Jimmy Snuggerud.
Yeah.
I mean... And we've done a lot of talking about him tonight, but, this is where I felt like you didn't see Zach Bolduc as much. I also didn't feel like Jake Neighbors had the same impact in this one like he's had in the regular season. Man, the season continues to move along, and I feel like Jimmy Snuggerud continues to get better. And what's wild about it is tonight, look at the shift chart on NHL.com. They matched up with that Schiefele line. Now, yes, Schiefele still came away with a few points, and some of it was just different line combinations that were stuck out there. But Snuggerud to play almost 20 minutes tonight, have 7 shot attempts, score that goal, but also made a couple of good defensive plays in the neutral zone. If any positives comes from this postseason, it's the fact that Jimmy Snuggerud is impacting an NHL game 20 games into his NHL career.
When he makes the transition over from college hockey, comes on to the Blues, and I want to make sure that I'm careful with this word, but it's almost sort of a novelty at that point of the year. Yeah. You're just happy to see the kid. You don't know what's going to come of it, but you're just finally happy to see Jimmy Snuggerud here. Well, then now you are really getting a great sense of the player that this guy is going to be going forward, and it is so unbelievably exciting. The one thing that I will say is I bet you if there is a couple of different people that are walking away from that arena tonight with bags of ice absolutely encasing their body, I would bet you that Jake Neighbors is one of those people.
Oh, my God,
because it seems like even though that he did not have the game offensively that we needed, but I mean, still, man, you see that guy out there, and he is always pushing at 130%, his body flopping around all over the place.
Nonstop.
So as much, again, as you would like to see some kind of secondary something, I mean, it is, you've got to think, a great thing that these guys are playing in these games that they are going to be able to take this and learn from.
He encapsulates old school hockey.
Oh, 100%.
Like every time you watch him. And one thing that I am going to wonder what Doug Armstrong looks at moving forward into the offseason whenever the Blues get there, because look, this is not a dead series. The Blues in 2019, they were up 2-0, and Winnipeg evened that series up at 2-2 after they went back home. So it's very possible for the Blues to get back into this one. But the one thing I'll be curious about is, what's your takeaway from this series? Is it the fact that you were without a couple of guys that are very crucial? Because you just mentioned it. 2 guys that I could argue are top 4 in terms of the MVP this season aren't on the roster or aren't 100%. Or is it the fact that we need to get a little bit bigger?
Yeah.
Because when you get bigger, you sacrifice a little bit of speed. But, I mean, Winnipeg is showcasing their strength, and it is size and physicality. But, man, even so, Neighbors is not 100%, but he still puts it all out there. And that's just that old school hockey that you need on teams.
But I mean, and this is, okay, this to me almost goes back to the old 8-bit Nintendo ice hockey game.
This is real old.
Okay, do you remember that game at all? All right.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could pick, the different body types for the guys. Skinny, then you had the middle guy, and then you had the heavy guy. Yeah. I almost feel like the Blues just have way too many skinny guys.
You got to go with the heavy guys.
We need to get somebody that can bring a little thunder in there.
And I think that comes into that net front presence that we're talking about, establishing the front of the net. It's something that Winnipeg has done. Think of the guys, too, that they have. Adam Lowry, who's really big. Mark Schiefele, who's really big. Kyle Connor, who's really big. They've got guys that seem to want to go to the front of the net. One more takeaway from me, Donnie, then I want to get a takeaway that you may have had in this one. Also, it's special teams. Special teams, I think, is an area of expertise. And even Colton Parayko said, like, look, special teams you need to capitalize on. They didn't tonight. And that, to me, was the story. Your penalty kill has been great in this series. You gave up one power play goal, and it was a fluky goal that the guy didn't even mean to score. But otherwise, you've killed off every opportunity that Winnipeg has wanted to do. A lot of that is Bennington. But offensively, man, you found a way to either tie the game or take the lead thanks to your power play.
Yeah, well, I don't know if this is a takeaway or anything along those lines. But again, I just want to bring up the fact that in St. Louis right now, we have got a goaltender that makes a difference.
Yeah.
And this team with just a little bit more oomph offensively, and man, we really have something here. And I think that it is, again, we've talked about this throughout the postgame. It is good to keep things in perspective. And, going into next year, knowing that you have all of this young talent and a goaltender that can stand on his flipping head when you need him to, it really gives you a lot of confidence. And it also makes this series a little bit more sort of palatable as they're down 2-0. Because, again, future looking bright.
Absolutely it does. He's Donnie Fandango. I'm Alex Ferrario. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll catch up with Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic. He's out in Winnipeg here on your home for the Blues 101 ESPN.
Welcome back to the First Community Credit Union Blues postgame show, powered by Scott Lee Heating Company.
On 101 ESPN.
Welcome back into our fourth period, extended post-game coverage here on your home for the Blues 101 ESPN. It's brought to you by First Community Credit Union. I'm a jerk. I said JR was going to come on, and then I was like, let's send it to break. So Jeremy signed on right when we went to break. The man's in Winnipeg doing 17 different jobs, and I'm like, cool, JR, sit and listen to commercials for 3 minutes. But he is gracious enough to wait and joins us from Winnipeg right now. JR, what's going on, buddy?
Not too much. I can't believe Donnie's still awake.
I can't believe either. You know what he's doing? He's talking food in here with us, JR.
Jeremy, I need a cheeseburger, fries, and my bed within the next hour. It just needs to happen, man.
Donnie, don't do it. Don't do it. Look, don't do it.
Don't do it, Donnie. JR, did I hear this right? You're getting on a flight at 6:40 in the morning?
Yeah, a few hours from now.
Good. So you just go get a cheeseburger and just sit at the airport
and hang out.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be in the future. But
JR needs the bed, then the cheeseburger. That's how this one's going to work. All right, JR, well, let's jump into this because I know you got a ton of things to do, and we appreciate you taking some time. But just take us down into that locker room. We heard a little from Brayden Schenn and Colton Parayko. It can't be the best vibe after 2 games to where the Blues just really could not generate any offense at 5-on-5.
Yeah, some disappointment. And, guys, you, I'm sure, have summarized it best, these third periods in these 2 games against the Winnipeg Jets. Let me read you some stats here I'll have in my article tomorrow at The Athletic. As we all know, the Blues played some outstanding hockey down the stretch, right? Those final 26 games of the regular season. How about this? 15-0-0 when leading after 2 periods. 3-0-0 when tied after 2 periods. And who are their 3 losses against? These 2 games in the playoffs and the 1 game against the Winnipeg Jets in the regular season. So this is a situation where the Jets have really poured it on St. Louis in the third period. And as Jim Montgomery said after the game, they're making one more play, and they've made them in the third period. The goal tonight by Connor, that Jordan Bennington loses his stick. It looked like on Colton Parayko's leg there, and Connor somehow, some way in the third period is unmarked, and he gives the Winnipeg Jets another game winner.
JR, how do you foresee or how do you think the Blues can kind of turn the tide here? Because, again, what we were saying here in the postgame, or what I was, it just seemed like, the last half of that game, Winnipeg imposed their will, and the Blues really didn't have an answer. What are the Blues going to have to do to change things up here in Game 3? Because they got to change it with the quickness.
Well, they're obviously going to have to defend that top line of the Jets. They've been outstanding. I realize that a couple of these goals haven't been snipes. You're talking about a goal that's going in off the skate of Jimmy Snuggerud tonight, that first goal. They've had some goals where, they're going harder to the net. And I think that's where the difference is, Donnie. This Blues team, and Jim Montgomery said at postgame, has to be harder at the net, which you are seeing from the Winnipeg Jets, which has led to a couple of their goals. So it's going to be coming down to how they can defend that top line. And I think it's going to be difficult, guys, because Robert Thomas is an outstanding defensive player. If he's going to defend that top line, he has to be at 100%, and I don't think he's at 100%. Seen him in the locker room after the game and looks to be hobbling around pretty good. So he's fighting through it. We all know that he left the regular season finale against Utah. He sat out of practice. That was a maintenance day. He is playing in the series. Give him some credit for that, but I do not think he's at 100%.
And JR, the other one, too, we talked about this. I don't think Colton Parayko's at 100% either, and it makes sense considering he came back from that injury probably sooner than what we thought he was going to. But, man, when you're without Dylan Holloway, who drives this offense, and when your best centerman and best defenseman aren't at 100%, it makes sense that the Blues are struggling in a lot of areas.
Yeah, and I think we've done this, Alex, the past couple weeks. The last couple weeks of the regular season is put together a list of the Blues' most important players. And I think you just said the 3 names, right? Yeah. Robert Thomas, Colton Parayko, and Dylan Holloway, right? And if you got one of them who's sitting back in St. Louis and 2 of them who are here in Winnipeg, but not 100%, it's not going to bode well. And, we all know Colton Parayko's had an outstanding season. Robert Thomas, too. Those are 2 of your great defensive players. And these goals are being scored by this Jets top line with these Blues defensive players on the ice.
And JR, we played the audio that you guys had with Brayden Schenn down in the locker room, and he talked about how we're not keeping the puck in the offensive zone very long. We're not forcing the Winnipeg Jets to get stuck in their own end, which is giving them more opportunities to have success and a little bit more energy late. Offensively, it seems like they just can't find the right combination. Maybe the reason you put 7 defensemen out there is because Parayko's not at 100%, but without having the Holloways and you lose the Jordan Kyrou, it just feels like that depth of scoring is not there anymore for the Blues. And I'm not really sure what fix Jim Montgomery can have in terms of juggling the lines.
That's the thing. You just don't have an answer. I mean, the one answer you could have is to move Zach Bolduc up to the top 6, but I asked Jim Montgomery that today, and he said that he wants him down there on that third line. he thinks the way he's playing offensively and defensively, he suits that line the best. But let's face it, even if you put Zach Bolduc in that top 6 somewhere, you could try it and maybe you'd have some success. I'm not saying you couldn't, but I'm just saying I don't think you're going to have what you had with Dylan Holloway. So there's definitely been a trickle-down effect with his absence.
JR, final thoughts. Not an easy thing to be down 2-0 in the series. I think they've been down this way 18 times in franchise history and have only come back in 2 of those series. But if there's an opportunity to get back into this one, what do you think? Where's that light at the end of the tunnel for the Blues?
Yeah, I think it's going to be continuing to play the way they've played in these 2 games. Because, look, these are 2 one-goal games if you exclude that empty netter, right? So I think if people who aren't watching the series are going to see the headline, Winnipeg Jets lead Blues 2-0 in the series, they're probably going to look at it and say, yeah, that's what I figured. But if they're not watching the games, they don't realize how close this has been. But just like everyone said tonight post-game, Alex, including inside the Blues locker room, their top players are making the plays. And it's been 1 play difference in each of these first 2 games. So, what needs to change? The Blues' top players need to be making those top plays instead of allowing them to the Jets.
And you can't really do another mismatch. You can't look for a mismatch on home ice, JR, because you need Thomas's line against Mark Scheifele's line. But if you're looking for a different line to match up against them because you want the offense from Thomas, well, then you take that chance of not being as good defensively.
100%, and that's where the challenge lies, because if you want to win a game in this series, that's the group that's going to have to do it. You can't try to get away from them in the matchup game at home, and if you try, who's going to defend them, as you just said. So that's why the Jets are who they are. That's why they've had a great season, and that's why they're up 2-0 in this series.
That's going to be an interesting one, JR. Man, appreciate the time on the road trip. I know this is not easy to squeeze us into your busy schedule, so we really appreciate it and help us out in the locker room. Have a safe trip home and enjoy that cheeseburger once you get done with us.
No problem. I'll just shoot a text to our Last Minute Blues podcast thread at 5:30 when I get to the airport.
Joke's on you. I've got a kid who's teething, so I'll be awake.
My phone's on silent, man. Go right on ahead.
Joke's on you also. So one of the 2 you're going to hit, JR, so it'll be perfect timing.
All right, see you, boys. We'll talk this week.
All right, see you, Jeremy Rutherford. And again, of The Athletic, really appreciate him. He's going to jump on with us on Wednesday for a new episode of the Last Minute Blues podcast. And I think that's the story of this game, Donnie. It just doesn't feel like there's there's nothing from these games that you can look at and you say, fix this and you'll be fine.
Right.
It's bigger picture, and it's just where you're at right now.
It is, and I think also, too, and we have done this throughout the course of the postgame, but credit where it's due. I mean, this is a really tremendously good Winnipeg team, and for you to beat them, you have got to be firing on all cylinders. The Blues are not doing that right now for a number of reasons, and the better team of the 2 is up 2-0. As much as I hate to say that, that's just what we've seen. Maybe the Blues can turn the tide, but it's going to be freaking tough.
It's going to be very tough on Thursday. Before we get out of here, let's hear from Jim Montgomery. It's post game with the media.
You guys have been so good in the third period, especially down the stretch the last couple months. What's happened in the third period these 2 games?
Winnipeg's made 1 more play than us. Both games. Shots are dead even, so they're just making 1 more play, and their best players are making them.
And just quick follow-up, that 1 play tonight, what did you see on the goal? It looked like Bennington lost the stick, but Connor wide open. What did you see from your perspective?
I thought we had good puck pressure on the play up top, and I think that play should be killed behind the net by us. And then we got to be able to cover. I mean, we want to force the puck up high versus allowing 81 to get a shot from the hash marks.
You got the early power play goal, but it seems like the later power plays maybe not as effective. Did there changes on Winnipeg's side or things you guys weren't doing in the power play?
I don't think we were shot focused enough. I do think we had some really good looks, and we didn't execute either the pass or, more importantly, the shots. And I thought Hellebuyck made a couple of big-time saves.
On the Jets' first goal, you had a line change. Was it just you needed a line change, but was it ill-advised, or did you just not play it well after that?
I don't think all 4 out of 5 guys changed. And then we didn't execute. We have a plan when we have wholesale changes like that, and we didn't execute very well defending that.
Is the decision to go with 11 and 7 today? What went into that?
I just thought that some of our really talented forwards didn't get enough ice time last game. And I thought we could get some favorable matchups just because they'd be out there more, and our offensive players getting a really good rhythm. And I thought they did. I thought they were feeling the puck a lot better. And I think it also allows our depth of our defensemen, which is really deep, to be able to use 7 of those guys, and it allowed us to be a little more physical.
With these games being so close, and you talk about they making one more play, what do you guys have to do to swing it, to make that extra play?
Well, we're going to have the last line change now. We're going to go home. We're going to be in front of our frenzy crowd, and we're going to have an opportunity to hold serve at home. We got to get to game 3.
Just big picture, you just touched on it there, but how do you see the situation? I mean, it's 2-0, but the games obviously have been close. Does that bode well when you're trying to stay in a series that you know you can play with them and maybe some small adjustments can help?
Yeah, I think as a group, we're not happy to be down 2-0, but the games are really close. There's not much separation going on right now. We need to make a separation. We need to find another level here when we go home so that we can end up on top by a goal.
When you look at the goals they've gotten, they've been some, I would say, they got a deflection in the game today. I think the first goal with Snuggerud slams into Bennington and knocks it in. Do you take anything from that and how they've gotten their goals?
Well, I do think that they've been harder at the net front than we have offensively. And that's, that's net hunger. Our net hunger needs to increase.
There's the quote right there. Our net hunger has to increase. It's the way you get back in the series, Donnie. You come home, you're in front of your crowd, net front hunger needs to be hungrier on your side.
And the thing is, too, Jim Montgomery said that from 2 days before Game 1 started, that this series was going to be won at the net front. And that's decided the first 2 games.
Yeah, it has. I mean, think of the goals that you've scored. Alex Iafallo to tie it up. And then tonight you have Kyle Connor standing in front of the net. You had the awkward bounce by Mark Schiefele to tie the game up in game number 1. This game has been won in front of the crease, and the Blues just have not found a way to get there.
Well, and also, too, though, I mean, we know this. This is a pattern that has worked in years past. You score ugly goals in the playoffs. That's how you win. You win by getting the dirty goals, the goals that you probably shouldn't necessarily
Joey says it all the time. It's why hockey players have big rear ends. It's to block the goalie's face so that you score goals.
Absolutely so.
Why I never would have made it as a hockey player.
Well, he's got a lot of insight, a lot of smart sayings coming from Joey.
He does.
Some disturbing ones, but some very good ones as well.
I'd say like 85-15 disturbing on the 85-15 on the non-disturbing side. Donnie, I can't thank you enough for doing this, my man. It has been awesome to have you in here, and you work like 17 different radio stations, so thank you for taking time out of a busy schedule and doing this tonight.
Dude, all good, and I want to tell people, if you're a big fan of rock music, tomorrow I'm going to be interviewing Maynard James Keenan, the front man of Tool, A Perfect Circle, and Pussifer. So, if that's your sort of thing, I'll post that interview probably on Thursday.
Look at that.
So, A Perfect Circle, Pussifer coming to town. So, man, I'm just trying to throw some music in here when we're talking hockey.
Pussifer sounds like a mean thing I would say to a buddy when I was in 5th grade. Like I would call him a pussifer.
I mean, I
might be cussing for all I know, but for right now, we're just going to say it's a band.
Not, because we both need these jobs.
That's very true. Well, we're going to be on the Last Minute Blues podcast on Wednesday as well. We'll have a reaction and a preview before game number 3. A huge shout out to Grant Francis and Jordan Deacon as well, helping this thing run so well here in our studios. And thank you for being with us on our YouTube page. I'm Alex Ferrario. Have a great rest of your night. Blues down 2-0 in the series. They come back on home ice to see if they can get back in the win column. And we'll have all of that coverage for you starting at 7:30 right here on your home for the Blues 101 ESPN.